This is Lee with 82 Game and 12 here on YouTube channel Sons of Liberty 75. And I'm going to do a playthrough of one of Jack Green's quarter deck games. And here's three of his games here. We've got Destroy Your Captain, which has to do with mainly destroyers and some light cruisers, a couple of heavy cruisers, and some smaller ships and destroyers. And then we have the Royal Navy, which is the game that we're actually going to simulate here. And one of its scenarios came out in 1984. And then we also have Iron Bottom Sound, which has to do with the Guadalcanal naval actions. And those take place at night. So the Royal Navy is going to deal with mostly World War II, but you have some World War One scenarios. And so this is not really going into the components of the game. It's just showing you how the game is played. And all three of these use the same system. And so if you play one, you'll be able to play the other very easily. So and so what we're going to do is we're going to actually refight the naval battle of the River Plate. And so I've got the ship set up, and we're going to talk a little bit about that. If you're unfamiliar about the River Plate battle, it happened in December the 13th, 1939. You got the pocket battleship Graf von Spee had been raiding the Atlantic and Indian Ocean since the start of the war. Pursued by numerous enemies, she had until now eluded pursuit. Finally, off the River Plate, she was brought to bay by two British and one New Zealand cruiser. So the question would be one of bringing down one powerful ship by three inferior ships. So the British have Commodore Henry Harwood, who's got a -3 to his rating, and a negative is better. The lower negative is better. And he's on board the Ajax. And so you also have the Achilles and the Exeter. So, and the Germans have Captain Hans Langsdorff, who has a -1, on board the Graf von Spee, and his heading is 6 at 4 movement points. And the British are moving in the direction of 5, which I believe is north, at 5 movement factors. Visibility is 9 hexes. This is a daylight action lasting 12 turns. Yes, north is direction 5. It says that the Graf Spee must roll 1d10 sided dice each turn before firing. On a 1 to 5, her shells are considered to be HE, while 6 to 0, which is a 10, are regular shells. Movement on turn 1 is concluded, and the game opens with the first turn gunnery round. So, And it says the Germans win strategic victory by sinking, reducing in speed all three enemy cruisers. Speed reduction must be to 333 or less. The Graf Spee must not be reduced below a 443. If the Graf Spee is sunk, the Empire or British automatically wins a strategic victory. This is reduced to a tactical victory if two or more enemy cruisers are sunk or reduced to 333 or less in speed. A tactical victory is achieved by the Germans if they lead by 7 victory points over the Empire. Empire wins a tactical victory if they inflict a minimum of 4 hull hits on the Graf Spee and reduce their speed to 443. All other results are a draw. So, historically, the Exeter was severely shot up, losing 2 forward turrets as well as her main fire control. The Ajax lost 2 turrets. The Graf Spee was hit severely as well and eventually withdrew before the 2 Empire-like cruisers. The Exeter had drawn off to lick her wounds. The Graf Spee retreated into Montevideo harbor and eventually was scuttled because Montevideo was a neutral port, and they were not too keen on the Germans because of some other issues that happened prior. And so they kind of helped the British Empire to kind of force her out of port. And with the threat of some heavy, powerful British naval ships approaching, and I guess a little deception in the fact that Longsdorff didn't know exactly what was waiting for him when he returned to the Atlantic, that they decided to scuttle. And he eventually committed suicide. All right. Famous battle here. Now, I've already made out the ship logs. Okay. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this. It's just basically your marking. So if I flip this, well, I don't have one on the flip side. But you're basically marking out turrets that are not there, and you're identifying the strength or gun factor, I guess, which is not specifically the actual armament. Okay, like this here is a 4.1 gun, and the Graf Spee had 11 inchers. I think they were like 11.1 28s, and so and then you've got 5.9 secondary guns. These ones that are grayed out, these are anti-aircraft guns, so this would be one also. So they weren't used to fire on enemy ships. They were used for shooting against airplanes. So the rules really state that you just don't use them against other aircraft. Naval ships. So, and you've got the armament if they have any armor. The speed is here. Talk more about that later. You've got the hull here. Graf Spee has 11 hull points. Exeter has 8. And then the Achilles and the Ajax are identical. They're sister ships. So all of their information is going to be identical. So that's what we've got there. So, and here with the Exeter, she actually had 2 bow turrets. Okay, this is the bow, which is the front of the ship, and the stern, or I call it the aft, is the rear of the ship. So you got starboard here, port on this side. And we'll talk more about this as we go along, but it's mainly just to see how it's played. This is all elementary stuff here, this other stuff, but it'll apply as we go along. Okay, so I don't really remember reading anything about the grav spade firing HE shells. Which are really used for soft targets. But there must have been something that they put that in the rules. So, okay, so the first thing we have to do, since there's no movement, we just jump right to the gunnery phase. The sequence of play is that you first introduce any reinforcements. Okay, we're not going to have any reinforcements. Okay, on any turn. And so let's see here. Talk about see if I see anything about the scale and everything. So each turn is 3 minutes for night actions, and this is a daytime, so it's 7.5 minutes for day battles. And each hex is 1,500 yards during the daylight. Okay. What else was I looking for here? Oh, sequence of play. So you have the reinforcements. We won't have to worry about that. Torpedo launching in reloading phase. Okay. So players would write if they're going to fire any torpedoes. We're not close enough for that. We determine the initiative. And at the present time, the British are going to have the initiative. Okay, because it's going to be, if there's leaders on the board, then it's going to be the leader with the lowest negative number. Or lowest number. So Harwood has a -3. So he's going to have the initiative. And so that's going to determine who moves first. So the side without the initiative moves half of their movement. Then the side with initiative moves all of their movement. And then it goes back to the side that doesn't have the initiative. They move the rest of their movement. And then the side that has initiative can then turn any of their ships they want 60 degrees, which is one hex side. And at that time, after movement's over, then you place torpedo hit markers if anybody got hit. Torpedo results will come at the end of the gunnery phase. So then you have the gunnery execution phase where all gunfire factors on both sides are allocated, and then all the guns are fired. Then you have the torpedo effects phase, and then the final phase is rolling for fires if anyone has a ship on fire. And you could also total at victory points if this is the last turn. So, okay. So we're going straight to gunfire. There's no torpedo phase. There's no movement phase. It just goes straight to the gunfire phase. And so both sides have sided each other. And we're looking at about, I think, about 19, was it 19? Let's see, 19,000 yards, I believe. 19 and a half, I guess. 19.5. 19,500 yards is the distance here. Because each hex is 1,500 yards. So, all right, then what we do now is, we're going to put on here our the ship target, hex they're in, and all that kind of stuff is going to go in here. So we also have to pay attention to the arc of fire. Okay. I don't think that they really show a good arc of fire uh, anywhere in the rules. I'm surprised that they didn't. I don't remember seeing one. Um, well, what they did is they did this. Okay, so the ship's moving this way, and then they're showing the bow arc here and the port broadside here. So I guess they do. Okay, so they do show it there, the stern, and then the starboard side. Okay, so when you're going starboard, then it's going to start off in the two hexes here on the side. On the bow, it's just the front hex, and then it expands out as it goes further away. So, another way to look at that would be this. Okay. And so this shows port and broadside turrets, and this shows bow and aft turrets on either end. So that just gives you an example. Okay. So if we look here at the situation we have, we've got Harwood is with Ajax. So you got Ajax and Achilles, okay? And they're both, they're in line. Ajax is in front, okay? And Achilles is behind. So they're in a three ship line here, okay? And so basically what you have here is if these ships are firing starboard side. Okay. So if we look here, she's got 11-inch guns, okay, but the fire factor is 12. Okay. Here they've got 5.9 guns, okay, but the fire factor is 4. So we have to take that into account. So, and each gun section can fire at a separate target. So, I'm going to write on here, okay, target, ship, and the hex. And then I'm going to put like notes about what happened. But I'm going to put, of course, I'm going to have to write down the which gun is firing, and whether or not the target is hit and so forth. So let me write that down here. I don't have much space. So, okay, on turn, so we don't have a lot of space here. So the Graf Spey is going to fire, the bow gun is going to fire at Ajax. So, and then the starboard guns are going to fire at the next ship in line, which is the Achilles. Okay, I don't really have enough space here. I'd have to actually get a separate sheet for this stuff here, because I write so the way I write it's hard to read. But that's BAJSAC. Okay. So now we actually go to the now that we are firing. And we know that the British ships, they're just not able to fire because of the direction they're traveling. And the other thing is they're in line, so they've got to do something to fix that. And what was done was Exeter turned to port and went around this way, while Ajax and Achilles continued going straight, and they were trying to force the Graf Spee to fire on in two different directions to split their fire, and basically take the Graf Spee on either side. The Achilles and Ajax are going to be looking to get close enough to fire torpedoes. One thing is their armament's not as strong, and so they may have a difficult time penetrating. So they've got 6-inch guns. So, however, let's see. Graf Spee is the only one that has torpedo reloads, and the Graf Spee's aircraft basically was not operational during the battle, so they were not able to put it up in the air. The Ajax put up their aircraft on turn 3, I think, or turn 2. Not very long into the battle, and I think all of the ships were traveling close to 14 knots at the beginning. So now let's have the actual fire. So the bow guns have a gunnery factor of 12. Okay. So now we go over here to the gunnery hit table. Okay. And so what we have is we've got the different shades here have to do with whether it's daylight or night. So okay, so let's see about any modifiers we might have. Range is about 13. So of course, range at night is here. This is daylight. So we're looking at 11 to 13, and so that's going to be plus 15. And then we have nationality modifiers. The Germans, World War II, get a minus 10. Okay. Target speed, there's nothing to apply here because they're moving. They were in movement. In fact, they were traveling about 14 knots. So I don't know how many movement points that would quite be. I'd have to factor it. But for each ship in excess of one firing on the same target, primaries on two separate targets. If secondary and tertiary fire on two separate targets. Let's see here. We don't have anything there. Okay. So what we have is a minus. Let's see. We have a minus 10 and a plus 15. So it's going to be a plus 5 to the die roll. Okay, so over here we have the gunnery factors. Is that right? Yeah. Okay. So the gunnery factors is 12. Okay. So I guess no, this is not shaded for night and day. I think all of that takes place over here with what's going on over here with the range and everything. Okay, so we have to roll, and we gotta add 5 to the die. Okay, so this is where we're going to be looking. So let's roll the dice, and this is percentage dice that we're rolling. All right, so we got a 24. And we have to add 5, so that becomes a 29. Okay, so we look here, and a 29, okay, is going to be a miss. Because it falls right here. We look down, that's a miss. Okay, so we have a miss. All right, now let's take a look at the other gun factors, okay, which is going to be a 4. And you must roll these separately. Even if these were firing on the same target, you've got to roll them separate. So we're going to have the same modifications, except now what we're doing is we're rolling right here. So unless we roll really low, we're not going to get a hit. 72, that's going to, of course, going to be a miss. Okay, so that's all of that. So the first turn is over. That's what I have this dice for. So then we go to turn 2. Okay. Now, on these counters, you've got the movement factors. Okay, so the first turn is they can move a 6. Second turn they can move 5 and 5. Okay, when you get to the fourth turn, it goes back to 6. That's just the way it goes. And I can either choose to just start here, or I can start in the middle, wherever I wanted. But all the counters are going to use the same. You can't be using the first for one counter and then the second for the, they've all got to be on the same schedule. So, what you would normally do here is you would write down, if you're playing against someone, you're going to write down movements. Okay, and like I said, there's just not a lot of room here for someone that writes like I do. But your movement orders, okay? And when you move, the first movement point expended must be forward, okay? So you can't make a turn and then move. You got to move forward and then you can turn. And the most that they can turn is 120 degrees. Okay. I believe some of the small ships can turn 180 in the daylight. So that would be like destroyers and probably, well, some of these probably light cruisers could do it. But you get a free, you can turn 60 degrees for free. That's one hexad. And if you turn 120 in one hex, it's going to cost one movement factor. And there's also rules for, like, if you're slowing down, speeding up, and all of that. But during the daylight, that's not really that much of a factor. Most of that's at night. So, since the British have the initiative, because Harwood's still on the map, then what happens here is Graf Spee has got to move half of their movement before the British move. And so just to show you how you would write this, I'm going to write down each of the ship's movement. And so you're going to use like B for bow, P for port, S for starboard, A for aft is what I use. Okay. stern is also another term for the aft, the rear of the ship. So okay, so the Graf Spee is wanting to. She's not too concerned about the distance. She just wants to be able to get more of her firepower involved. So she wants to be able to turn where she can fire bow and stern or aft turrets. She only had one bow turret and one aft turret, and they were triple barreled. The Graf Spee can move 5. Okay. So that turn doesn't cost us anything. And so then we can just put 4. So what I've done is I've shown how you would write the movement. If they turn to port, you put a P. If they turn to starboard, you put an S. If they do the 120-degree turn, then it's just 2 P's. It'd be 1 PP, and then, and that's going to cost a movement. Okay, it costs 1 extra movement to turn more than 60 degrees in a hex. So, and then of course, you have to always move 1 hex before the next turn in a different hex. So Graf Spee could actually end with a turn. Okay, but just to show you. And then, of course, with the British, I'll go ahead and put this down for them. Let's see, this is going to be, actually, I need to put this in this turn here. So it would be 1 P4. So with them, you got 1 P, and they have a movement of 5 for Exeter. 2. Okay, and Ajax, let's see, they can move 6. All right, so here we go. We got them all written down, what they're going to do, okay? And so we start with the side that does not have the initiative. So they're going to go first here. So we're going to move half of their movement. So half of their movement, they're moving 5. So half of their movement is going to be like 3, okay? So we're going to go 1 P, which is turn to port, and then 4, okay? So we have to go forward 1, okay? Then we're going to turn to port 60 degrees, okay, just like that. And then we're going to move 4, but we're only going to move half, so we're going to actually move 2, 3 right there. All right, so that's where they moved, okay? Now, the side with the initiative moves their whole movement, okay? And so what I'm moving is I've got Harwood with Ajax is moving 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So they move out here to 6. And Achilles is only going to move 4. 2, 3, 4. They move to there, okay? And then the Exeter, if I show you, the Exeter is moving 1. They have to move 1 forward. And then they're going to turn, okay, there, and That's one. That's 6 degrees. Now they're going to turn again. Okay. Like that. And they're going to move, and that costs one movement factor to do that additional 6 degree turn. They're going to, that's why the PP is there. Port, port. So then they're going to move 3. And actually, I don't want to turn to port. I actually should be wanting to turn to starboard there. So that should be an S there instead of another P. Okay, so they're going to move 1, 2, 3, and then turn here. Okay. All right, so now we go ahead and move the rest of graph space movement, okay, which is going to be 2. 1, excuse me, 2. All right, so if anybody ends up off the map, what you do is you just shift all the counters so that everybody stays from the map, okay? So, all right. Now, as I said, whoever has initiative at the end of the movement, they have the ability to take an additional, basically it's a free turn, basically. So they can turn their ship 60 degrees. So the British could turn any of their ships they wanted 60 degrees. Okay. So they could actually turn here if they wanted, and they could turn here to bring their bow guns to bear on the graph spay. But I think they're going to be able to bring their guns to bear anyways. We'll see. See, now the Exeter could turn to try to bring all of her guns to bear. Okay, the bow and the stern. I should say aft. Stern's still correct, but I don't want to get stern and starboard where I'm using S for. That's why I use aft, because you're wanting to use a separate letter to make it easier to write these things down. So, and I didn't want to fire any torpedoes. You actually have to fire your torpedoes. How far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And this would be 13. So 12 here, 13 there. 13 to here. Okay. All right, so let's look at the gunnery table here. And see. Let's see here. Okay, so we do have the primaries for the gaff spay is firing on 2 different targets. So that's going to be a plus 10. Range is going to be a plus 15, so we're at plus 25. Germans get a minus 10. The Empire, British Empire, get just a minus 3 for nationality modifiers. Okay, so that's going to hurt them a little bit. We don't have anything else going on here. Okay, so it's going to be a plus 15 for the graph space fire. So let's roll the dice and see if they get any hits. Okay, so we'll fire at the Exeter first. So aft guns fire at the Exeter. Let's see what we get. All right, a 60, which is going to be a miss. All right. We fired the bow guns again. We got to add 15. Wow, we got to add 15 to the die. Forgot about that. Okay, so a 30 is going to be a 45, and that's still going to be a miss. Okay. Okay, now the secondary guns, they're not going to have that plus 10. It's just going to be plus 15 for range, and then the German nationality modifier is minus 10. So we're looking at it just a plus 5 on that one. Ooh, we got a 4. That becomes a 9. So if we take a look here, okay. All right, so the thing is, the gunnery factor is only a 4. Okay, those are 5.9 guns, secondary guns. So a 9, if we look down here, is going to be 1 hit. Okay. So we're going to put 1H. Okay, so I'm writing this on the back of here. And so this is just who they're firing at, okay, for this second turn here. And here we have a hit. These are misses here. So now we go to the Exeter. Okay. And the Exeter, okay, they've got 8-inch guns. And so the fire factor, I have it circled here, I wrote it and circled it, is 5 for each. And they're both firing on the Graf Spee, so that's going to be a total of 10. Okay, so if we look at this chart, here's 10 right here. Okay, and then on the back here, we have to look at, okay, the range is 13. Okay, so actually, if you're firing into the bow or the stern, that's known as raking, and so you've got, I guess, a better chance of actually hitting. So, but that doesn't take effect. So we got a plus 15, and the nationality modifier for the Empire at World War II is minus 3. So that's going to end up being a plus 12. Rolled a 71, becomes an 83. That's going to be a miss. So the Exeter fires and misses. Okay, the Ajax and the Achilles are both going to fire. Now the Ajax is at 11, but that's still going to be the same range. And we're going to have the same modifier. That's going to be a plus 12. And the fire factor for these 2 units, ships, is going to be, they're firing 6-inch guns. Now, they do have 3 turrets. So that's going to be 3, 3, and 3. So that's going to be 9. Both of them are going to be firing with a gun factor of 9. It's right there. Okay. 80 plus 12 is 92. That's a miss. Okay. Now the Achilles. 43 becomes a 55, and that's going to be a miss. Okay. So we got 1 hit. So let's go to the hit. Got to determine where it's hit at. All right, so we got this big chart here. So then we just roll. Okay, and I rolled a 63. So 63, secondary, and one movement. Okay, now if you get this A circled, that means you got to check the armor. Okay, if you don't get that, then you don't have to check the armor. Which secondary guns for the let's see who was hit. Achilles. Is 0. They didn't have any armor. So it's going to knock out. It's going to knock out their. Let's see. Port side. Secondary guns, and it's going to slow them down. So that's how I do that. I just mark out this gun here, gun placement there, and then here what we have to do is we have to work from the left to the right with the highest number. Okay. And you work. Let's see. I guess you work from the bottom up. Yeah. So the Achilles is slowed down. Their top speed is now only a 5. Okay. So I colored in that 6. So now they're a 5, 5, and 5. Okay. We don't have any fire. But I can put that on there to show they got hit. Okay. Next turn. And that's just the way this game goes. You just keep going on and on. We don't have any, they're not close enough for torpedoes. And so we have to try to get the Achilles and Ajax close enough to fire torpedoes. And Exeter has to now try to get closer to have better odds at doing some damage. So now we have to plot the movement again. And so Lansdorf really needs to try to take out one of the ships so that the odds are reduced. And instead of splitting up their fire, they got to concentrate and get closer. So, turn 3, of course, they've got to go forward. Their movement is 4, so they can only move 4 now. Okay, and then Exeter can move 5. Ajax can move 5. So can the Achilles. So all right, so what I've done here is I've marked what they're going to do. Okay, kind of sloppy. Okay, so here we go. So with the Graf's Bay, they don't have the initiative, so we have to move them half. Okay, so I got to go forward, and then I have starboard, so turn to the starboard, go 3, 1, but we don't go the rest. We just go right there. Okay, and the Exeter, we've got, of course, they got to go forward 1, turn to the starboard, and then go 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then turn back to port. Okay, and then over here, we got the Ajax, going to go 2, 1, 2, turn to port, go 3, 1, 2, 3, turn to starboard. Same thing here. So 1, 2, turn to port. 1, 2, 3, turn to starboard. All right, now Graf's Bay gets to finish its move, which is move 2 more forward and then turn to port. Right there. Let's turn this, let's get this leader here. All right, now they're a lot closer now. Now they're probably close enough to fire torpedoes, but they're not going to be able to do that till the next turn. Okay, now any of the British ships, Empire ships, can now turn 60 degrees if they wish. And yeah, the Exeter, I don't know, the 140, yeah, he would still be within range. But I think he's better off if he turns like this. Yeah, he's going to turn there because he's wanting to go more toward that way. And those two are just going to stay like they are because they've got plans to fire torpedoes. So, all right, now we have gunnery phase, and things don't look maybe so great now. for the Empire. Okay, so turn 3. Graf Spee. Gonna fire their bow and aft turrets at the Ajax, and then their starboard secondary guns at the Achilles. Okay, the Exeter, I don't think they're going to be able to fire. Well, if we use this, 120 would still put them in, still allow them to fire on the Graf Spee. If I did like 190, guess I'm just going to allow the way they're turned. If they were like this, they could fire probably both. They're going to fire their bow. Okay. Now, Ajax and Achilles are going to fire both of theirs. So, and I think really, let's see, the Exeter has got should have a strength because they've got 3 turrets. I would put them at a strength of 14. Okay. All right, so let's fire these and see what happens. All right, so first off, we've got the Graf Spee firing their bow and aft turret. Okay, at the Ajax. And we've got a range of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. So, range of 6 is going to be a minus 40. Ouch. With the German World War II minus 10, so we got a minus 50. Jeez. Ajax is in trouble. So I rolled a 64. That becomes, what I say, minus 50? Yeah. That becomes a 14. So, and let's see, they've got, whoa, I didn't add that up right before, I don't think. Let's see, turn 2. Yeah, they split everything up. Okay. So now they got 24 factors here. And what I say, a 14? Yeah, right here, that's going to be 2 hits. All right, so we got 2 hits on the Ajax. And let's see here. But the Achilles, they hit the Achilles previous turn, so that's a minus 15. Under fire previous turn, that's a plus 5. So I would have to add a plus 5. But he wouldn't hit. Under fire though. So that would be a 19. That's still going to be 2 hits. Okay. All right, and so then the let's see, the secondary guns, the 5.9 inchers, are firing the Achilles, and they hit them previously, so that's minus 15. But plus 5 for being fired on previous, so that's minus 10 more. So instead of minus 50, it's going to be minus 60. Okay, rolled a 30, minus 60 is a 20. 20 is one hit. All right. So now we go to the Exeter. Okay. Exeter's firing on the Graf Spee. Well, I guess you could say that's going to be that's almost a rake. Exeter's got 2 bow turrets. They're going to have a fire factor of 9. Range 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Range of 10. Okay. That's going to be 0. Minus 3 for the Empire. They were fired on. So it's going to be a plus 2. So a plus 2. $66. It's gonna be a mess. Yeah.
Well, although you are busy. 54 out there.
Uh-huh.
Couldn't believe it. I didn't even wear a coat.
Oh.
So I stopped by Helen's.
Mm-hmm.
They had 3 eggs.
Oh, did they?
So I took them.
Oh, did you?
Well, I wasn't going to go in the house.
Yeah.
And take them in, so I'll have to tell her.
Yeah.
But the bucket was almost empty.
Oh, wow. Well, they must not be checking every day.
No, they're not. Well, I think she leaves it up to him.
Oh.
But thank goodness they did close that big old hole, which
Oh, yeah.
it was a window with a cover, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm glad they closed that. Alrighty. I got tarps to, which we'll do sometime later.
Oh, okay.
Recover the pen.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so now we have the Ajax and the Achilles are both firing their bow and aft at the Graf Spee. Okay, and they both have, if we look at them, they've got 3 turrets. No, they've got 4 turrets. I didn't add that up earlier. 4. Yeah, I should have added it up. I didn't. So that's 12. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 12. So they got a 12. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Range. Okay, that's minus 40. Okay, minus 3. They've been fired on. Okay, one of them was hit previous turn. So that's plus 5. Acquired target previous turn. So that's a minus 7. I should have been including that. So that's a minus 2. So they got a minus 5 total. So it'd be a minus 45. Okay, and they're going to have a strength of 12. Okay. Okay, so I rolled an 80. That was an 80. So that's going to be a miss. That was too high of a roll. Okay, so now the Achilles was hit previously, so that's going to be a minus 15. So they're going to have a minus 30 total. I rolled a 64, so that's going to be 30, 34, so that's going to be still going to be a miss. Got it? Yeah. Okay. Okay, so the Ajax takes 2 hits. Alright, so let's roll to see what kind of damage we're going to have here. 63. Okay, it's the same thing I had before. So the Ajax is going to take a secondary hit and then lose a movement. So they're going to lose, that's going to be their secondary gun on the port side. And they lose a movement. Second hit, 33. Is a midship primary. Okay. And you got to check the armor. Okay. So, let's see. So the Ajax primary is just a 1-inch armor. And we're talking about 11-inch guns. So what we have here is we got this here. Okay. So the German, here's the German 28. Okay, and we were at range, let's see here, hexes, what was it, 6? So, yeah, you'd have to have 11-inch armor. So they didn't stop that. So that hit the primary. So that's going to knock out the midship primary, okay, which is going to be this one here, not the one here on the bow, but right there, that one right there. Okay, that's behind it. $33. All right, so that's what it takes out. I wasn't rolling to see what kind of ammo. Should have been rolling. 6 is regular, so I should have been rolling that. I forgot all about it. About HE or armor piercing shells. All right, so now the next hit was on the Achilles. So we'll roll to see what we get here. Okay, we rolled an 85. Okay. All right, so the 85 is 1 hole, 1 movement, and I'll have to see what all this BBB stuff is. BBB and then D. What happened to my... Okay. All right, so what we had here is I rolled an 85. Okay, so 1 hole, 1 movement, and then this out here lets you know whether it's going to be a belt or deck. So at a range of 6 hexes, it's going to be the second B, which tells you it's going to have to penetrate the belt to do the damage. Okay, so this is the secondary guns. This is 5.9. Okay, so if we look here, the range was 6 hexes. Okay, and the Achilles has, on the belt is okay, it's only 1 inch. So the 5.9 German, okay, at this range, it would have to be, yeah, it would have to be 5 inches. So it penetrated. So it's going to do a hole and slow them down. So what I do is I'm going to mark off a hole. And mark off the speed. So now they're 554. Okay, this other one should already been marked off. So if we look here, it's 554. That's what they've got. All right. And I'm gonna go ahead and put the Ajax was hit. So I gotta put a hit mark on them. What that does is it reminds you that they've been hit. So, and I'm gonna stop right there. I could keep going, and I may come back and add another video, but this is just showing you how this is played. And it's a very good system. The only thing I have a question about is, I would like to have a better explanation of the arc, the firing arc, because to me it's a little difficult to know exactly what that arc is as you go further out from